Episode 6-7. I don't know how to do it.
That is not going to be our cold open. I refuse. I don't want to hear that.
We'll
I don't want to hear that right as the pod starts.
I do actually need to. In texting you, I realized I had the audio of the Florida Twitter space that I need to pull for a cold open sometime. I finally found it.
All of a sudden just, all right, okay. Okay,
well,
Travis can't hear me anyway.
I honestly think they did.
I see we have two of the other KBTX weather team in here. Tyler, go ahead.
Sorry. For some reason, Travis can't hear me. I think he's doing that on purpose.
Boom, beam, boom, little boom, 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 beam, boom, little boom, boom, beam, boom, beam, little boom, 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 boom.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. I'm senior Texas A&M sports writer Travis Brown, alongside chief meteorologist Max Crawford.
Hello.
Max, how are you?
I'm good. I've just been told my levels are a little bit quieter, but that's probably fine.
You do like to talk a little bit.
Yeah, because my volume does go up. We guys, and if you are a regular listener, God bless you, because we have had ourselves some audio challenges over the past
2 years.
2 years. Over the past
whole
2
time
years
we've done this?
in
Yeah.
this digital studio, we think that we have struck a balance that works pretty good, and we are so sorry, and we're working on it.
The digital studio was mostly just weather live streams and
that was how
updates,
it
and you
started,
used one
right.
microphone, but we have four, and so we're kind of having to dust everything off a little
We have
bit.
expanded the use of this little area, and we are starting to finally tap into the potential that it has, and in that, there have been some growing pains for 2 years. And hopefully this all sounds lovely to your eyes and ears. Although there's only so much you can do about my voice.
Speaking of tapping into potential, Tyler Shaw over here, sports director. Tyler,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Yeah.
We're very matching eggshell here
It's
today.
one of those neutral tones.
Did you get that
it's
at Target?
Good color. I don't think I
Okay,
did.
I didn't know if maybe we're Target buddies here.
No.
You know, something that we talked about a little bit before we fired this up. What was your favorite? You know, now the youths, they have the TikToks, they have the Snapchats, they have the memes, they have the brain rot.
Yeah.
The brain rot. What is your favorite piece of millennial brain rot? Which basically was YouTube.
Yeah.
We are all millennials in here, yes.
YouTube
yes, yeah.
or E-Bombs World or Funny Junk or...
We were talking some Homestar Runner.
Yeah.
One of mine, for me, it's 55.
Okay.
And
That one gets a little weird at the end.
And what's the end of the world?
Yeah, End of the World.
End of the world. Yeah,
Yes.
that was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up my favorite, website to go on of all time of brain rot was Homestar Runner.
Homestar Runner was great. End of Z World has one of the greatest examples of the Mandela effect that I can remember with our generation when he's like, okay, so here's the Earth.
Round.
That's not what he says.
Okay.
That's not what he says, Travis.
Okay.
He says, hey, that is a sweet Earth, you might say. And then he says, wrong. The G on the wrong. Like, incorrect. It's not a sweet Earth.
Oh.
And then he goes into the whole thing. He does not
was
say
today
round.
years old when I thought it was
says,
round.
He says wrong.
Oh.
But everybody remembers it as round, and it takes all of my ADHD brain to not correct them every time. Well, the only reason I corrected you this time was because I'm the one who brought it up.
Well, there you go.
I don't know that that's my favorite.
I'm glad
one,
I
though.
walked right into that for you.
My brother is 6 years older than me, and so I watched just the raunchiest things when I was way too young, and so he was a big E-Bombs World guy, and there was a lot of inappropriate things on there, but one of the more wholesome things was milk and cereal.
Yep.
Cereal.
That's like an actual
Yeah, I'm
band,
pretty
right?
sure.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I got that off LimeWire, and I
Oh,
had that
yeah.
on my listening devices.
That's one of the things that when I think about that like brings back the warm fuzzies of like winter break, which, dude, the thing I miss the most about not being an adult is winter break. Summer break was awesome too, but like winter break, especially in college, was so awesome. And how cool is it?
We do get a version of that here in that the traffic goes away during winter break.
Except not really this time. I mean, it's going to be delayed.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like, how cool is that you know, you can come back and do one last bout
Yeah.
with a great football team there at Kyle Field.
So was your brother the same age as me?
No, he's a little bit older than you.
Okay.
Yeah. But
because I always run the risk of, because I'm like just a half generation older than you two. So
my brother's in his 40s. You were not there yet.
Sometimes I don't know if my references quite hit home because I'm the old man.
I usually understand them, but a lot of times I understand them enough to know that they're not
good.
They're not cool.
They're not good.
Yeah.
Good.
Not that I know what's cool. I just know what's not cool.
That's just all I need to know.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the headlines this week because there is a lot of them. Let's start, of course, with Texas A&M offensive coordinator Colin Klein was announced as the next head coach at his alma mater up there at Kansas State. We talked about this a little bit last week in our kind of makeshift pod as we were doing signing day and the penultimate rankings came out and everything that was going on.
Tyler and I had to be separated for a little bit.
Because y'all just don't get it. That's why I'm in the middle between you two. You just fight all the time.
Appreciate it.
So we kind of went into this a little bit last week about why this is a move that I think most of us were expecting to happen. And what he'll bring up there. Mike Elko did say Monday that a little bit veiled answer, but it does seem like they kind of know the direction that they're going to go once the season ends when it comes to replacing him, and had a comment on the fact that whoever they do bring in to replace him, the offense will probably look pretty similar because there is some core tenets of how Mike Elko wants the offense to run that will stay the same. He said, but with a new offensive coordinator, there could be some little wrinkles and twists and tweaks, but as he said, if you look back at his time at Duke and at A&M, there's a lot of base level similarities in offenses the way they were run.
Which makes sense. You're going to get a new play caller in there, so yeah, you're going to see kind of maybe some new play, but his strategy, the aggressiveness or non-aggressiveness, that should all stay pretty even keel and the same, especially when you have an offense that's been as successful as it was this year. Why change so much? So
I agree with you that it sounded very sure of itself when he was asked about it, because one of you asked the question. I think
I did.
It was one of you, yeah. And because sometimes he's got his veiled responses, but when he's transparent about things, he just is like he did seem very confident. Like, yeah, we've got that pretty much figured out. Those weren't his words, but it did seem very like, yeah, we got it covered. Like, that's not going to be a thing. And whether that's an internal hire or not, I mean, we've got some assistant news that we assume is all but official at this point. But yeah, it seemed like they've already got the direction that they're headed very much in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll be interested to see reports out there that A&M's tight ends coach might be going with him. Who Klein takes from this staff to go with him to Kansas State and kind of helps fill that. Let's move on a little bit to Marcel Reed. He announced on Robert Griffin III's podcast, Out of Pocket, that he is going to return. I don't know if there was much speculation on if he would go to the draft. He is draft eligible, though he will be a redshirt junior next year because it'll technically be his fourth year. But were any of you expecting him? I mean, the two options are NFL draft, transfer portal. I don't think anybody was really expecting him to take either of those options. Were either of you two?
No. I mean, yeah, he is draft eligible, but I don't think he is shown or that he's ready really to be a high draft pick. And I think obviously he has the potential to be, so why not stay at least another year? We could see 2 more years of Marcel, to be honest, before he makes that jump. But yeah, I honestly was not even on my radar, but he just kind of said it out in the open. So now it's out there that, yes, he is returning.
I think that is the question that will be the biggest one to answer is a year from now. In this NIL era, is this very much a situation where he says, you know what, why don't I just solidify myself, assuming he continues to progress, why don't I just solidify myself as a Texas A&M legend and get a lot of money to do it and stay in college for one more year? I think that's more of a question for next year than it was for this year. I think even if, excuse me very much, I think even if he was going to New York this weekend, I still would have been surprised if he would have declared for the draft. And obviously would have been shocked if he would have gone to the portal, because it seems like we're rocking and rolling with this thing. But yeah, I think that question will be a lot more interesting this time next year.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, yeah, that question will be brought up this time next year. What if he does decide to stay an extra year after? Like, he stays 2 more years. Think of, cementing himself as an Aggie legend. There are a multitude of records he will probably break.
I think
if he stays for 2 more seasons.
Touchdowns responsible for rushing, maybe even rushing yards for a quarterback, maybe even passing yards for a quarterback. I mean, Kellen Mond had those are some numbers that are tough to beat, but I think it's possible he could take pretty much any of those records except for maybe completion percentage.
The rushing numbers that Johnny Manziel was able to put together in 2 years were unreal.
Yeah.
So I think even if he continues to play 2 more years, that it's going to be impressive to see if he can match some of those.
Sure.
I think he's like
and new
400,
offensive coordinator notwithstanding.
Right. I think he's like 400 yards behind Kellen Mond rushing wise. In that category, the Heisman finalists came out. Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, Diego Pavia. Do we think the voters got that right?
Yeah. Did you get it right, Trevor?
I am sworn to secrecy. I can't say what my vote is until time, but you judge me and my peers.
I think, and this is not an insult to any of the finalists, but I think this year it was kind of just like there's a bunch of good teams, and there aren't a ton of just this person stands out as not only the key player on their team, but also the best player in the country. I don't know that there was a whole lot of that. Maybe like Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, and Travis, what is going on your telephone? Interrupting me.
I'm trying to make this video stop.
Speaking of millennial brain rot, I heard somebody talking about Mortal Kombat on there. I think there are obviously some very impressive players around the country, but like we were thinking at the beginning of the year, like, will Lenora Sellers be in New York? Will DJ Lagway be in New York? Arch Manning and stuff like
Jeremiah
that.
Jeremiah Smith was my preseason Heisman pick.
So there you go. I mean, like Pavia, I think we could have, he was returning for his super senior year. I think that's probably one of the ones we would have assumed he would have been there. Probably not Mendoza is somebody that you would have picked at the beginning of the year. Jeremiah Love, I think you probably would have said, yeah, I could see that happening for sure. So, I think that's a just fine list of Heisman finalists. I think that it'll be a year where we're like, last year we had GNT and Travis Hunter. And this year,
and if either one of those guys would have been another year, they would, and they had the same kind of season, it would have been hands down.
Right.
There wasn't. It was weird that there was 2 kind of generational talents for what they did in different ways that year, and there's not really that.
If GNT played this year, he would have blown this field out. Like it would have been his to lose. He would have blown out of the water. That's kind of the disappointing thing, I guess.
The UNT quarterback put up some Case Keenum numbers.
Yeah, Mr. Maker.
He put up some insane numbers, but I guess they looked at that.
There's also an argument for Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech, the defensive guy in there.
Yeah,
but I think the 4 that's in there, that's fair.
I think if Jacob Rodriguez would have had those 2 picks instead of that other guy, who kind of looks like him, because all of those defenders have mustaches.
Careful.
And
Rogers.
Yeah, I thought it was like Turner.
I think it's
Rogers. Maybe Ben Rogers. I thought it was Ben something.
That's a DFW radio great.
Is it?
Ben Rogers.
Well, anyway, that dude, that linebacker for Tech had 2 interceptions. I think if Rodriguez would have been the one having those 2, I think we'd maybe hear his name talked about a little bit more often. But yeah, I think that was the defensive guy that you were kind of thinking of for sure.
Yeah. I'll refrain from my takes as to not inadvertently disclose my vote. We'll have plenty of time to talk about why I don't know ball and got that wrong at a later date. So let's go into the A&M's new soccer coach, Bobby Shuttleworth. An interesting one. Last 4 years he was an assistant coach and an associate head coach at Florida State, who just got done on Monday winning a national title over Stanford, 1-0. He's in 4 years there. They won 2 national titles, also went to the College Cup in 1 year, 2023, he was with Florida State when they came and beat A&M twice. Once in the preseason, once, and they knocked him out of the SEC tournament. That was the year they made it to the College Cup but didn't win it. More interesting than that, to me, it was a 14-year career in the MLS. He retired in 2021 and went straight into college coaching as an assistant at Florida State. He 14 years as a goalie. He's 10th in the MLS history in matches played as a goalkeeper.
Wow.
Played with Taylor Twillman at the New England Revolution early in his career that everybody knows from Team USA color commentary now, and played with I just forget his name. The current Matt Turner, the one of the current Team USA
Maybe
goalkeepers.
that's what I was thinking of. Turner, Matt Turner.
Yeah, Matt
Probably
Turner,
not.
Team USA goalie, currently on the squad. I think it's a pretty solid pickup for if you weren't going to bring in a sitting head coach. This is probably this is certainly a win the press conference kind of hire.
Yeah, big splash.
And so I and for those who don't know a ton about the women's college soccer game, I think that just that fact of his longevity in the MLS as a professional and only having been out of his professional career for four years now, there's probably some natural human interest, intrigue in that people want to kind of come see what he's about.
Yeah, he can still lace him up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably could. And it's funny because you always talk about, like, with football coaches, how when one coach leaves, usually an athletic director, an athletic department goes in the opposite direction. Like if you have an offensive coach, you go defensive.
Yeah.
Second straight goalie coach, a coach with goalkeeper background for A&M. It's also the second coach in A&M soccer history. So
I think also beyond this guy's pedigree, it comes with like to it. Like, I need to go and check that out. And to me, that is kind of a trademark of what you saw with the Bucky hire. Is like, here is this whole new style, not necessarily whole new like philosophy for how you play soccer, but like, here's this dude who knows what it's like to be in a winning program. He's a younger guy, and he's going to bring new energy to this program and stuff like that. If you're thinking about that from like a fan experience and trying to get people to Ellis Field and stuff like that, to me that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think you're dead on with that, and it's you kind of need that a little bit because as we've seen and learned from Trev Alberts, that soccer is the first left out when it comes to revenue sharing. They have the full roster of full ride scholarships that they're able to get, but that's it. The rev share stops there. They'll have to rely heavily on NIL to win some of those recruiting and transfer battles. So.
Right. Well, we've talked about how A&M's kind of a natural hotbed for recruiting with soccer, just the Texas soccer scene, SEC. That's interesting, Max, your take that you think this is the kind of hire that's kind of revitalize, I guess, re-energize a fan base.
We talk about me being the half generation older and being the old man. We have now reached with both Colin Klein and now Bobby Shuttlesworth. Colin Klein was a year younger than me. Bobby Shuttlesworth is about half a year older than me. It's weird when you get to that point in your career when you're the same age as the coaches. That's I don't know if I like it that much. That's a weird one. So, volleyball. Jamie Morrison and his girls are heading to Nebraska for the second year in a row for their second Sweet 16 in a row. It's the first A&M volleyball program ever to go back-to-back for Sweet 16s. Tyler, you were out there for a little bit of the volleyball match against Campbell. What do you like? What do you not like about this A&M team heading into the Sweet 16 up in the dreaded and feared Nebraska?
Well, it's a confident group, so I think they've got that going for them, and a veteran group. A lot of seniors. I mean, these names like Lednicki and Afenakasapala, we've seen for several years now playing together that chemistry. I think they're good enough to compete with anyone. I don't particularly think the draw they have is very favorable, They got Louisville first, which, I think they can beat Louisville. But then you got Nebraska on their home court waiting for them in the Elite Eight. And not saying that they can't beat them, but that has got to be one of the toughest one seeds to play. I think had they been like playing Texas or someone that they have proven they can beat, much more favorable of a draw. So it'll take everything to go right for the Aggies' way if they want to make a Final Four run.
Morrison had some good comments about the fact that they go back to Nebraska for the second year. They know where the locker room is. They know the environment. They've done that. They've been there before. Except last year they lost to Wisconsin in that first round, so they didn't get to face Nebraska. This year they're trying to look to get past Louisville to be able to face Nebraska, who is the odds, the favorite to number 1 overall seed, the favorite to win it all. I think that's going to be the next big step, the next mark. And he also kind of mentioned, they were kind of the newcomer to the show, so the Nebraska fans were kind of behind them a little bit in that game opposite what Nebraska was playing. They're curious to see if they will have the same kind of underdog support from the crowd.
I'm doubting that.
Yeah.
To me, it is a completely different team that's coming in there. Coach Mo did have some really good sound there about how this is a different animal that we're kind of walking into, and the expectations are obviously they're the same in that you want to go as far as you can, you want to win it all, but I think the expectations are a little bit different than the last time around, especially from the fan base. I think also really cool that it was a combined attendance record in Reed Arena for volleyball this year. I think that speaks to the type of program that Coach Mo is trying to build, and obviously is doing very well. The dude paid for all the student tickets for those 2 games that we got to host at Reed Arena. So he is all in on making A&M a volleyball school. And I would still like to see that top level of Reed start to fill up in some of those bigger matches, but I think we're on the way to that.
To your point there, and it's something I kind of wrote about you as the fan voice of the podcast, as we see Jamie Morrison right here on your screen. I'm assuming you're probably heading into the biggest, most knowledgeable volleyball fan. Probably wouldn't go on your own dime. How much does this man now make you want to go as a fan check out what volleyball has going with everything he's doing?
Oh yeah, that much more. I mean, and Coach Bird was she was an awesome lady. We can talk about her coaching accolades and stuff like that. I think she understood that it was an untapped thing, trying to get that student base rabid and involved in it and stuff like that. I just don't think she was able to because the success wasn't there. And I think Coach Morrison absolutely understands that and has started to finally tap into it. But I mean, if you get this team on a consistent basis, like the level of performance that we've seen over the past 2 years, yes, but especially this season, and you get that on a semi-regular basis, then all of a sudden, yeah, I think he does have all the tools, and obviously Trev knows, how and what a volleyball school looks like. And so that's super exciting for me. Like the traditional non-revenue sports and their potential to bring in some revenue, and for us to have more marquee sporting environments and experiences than just football and, arguably baseball as well. To me, that's what I want more than anything else. Like I want every time you go to an A&M sporting event, it's like, man, the 12th man was crazy at that. I don't think we're there yet. And I think I'm more biased than most about our fan base and the potential that we have, but I also like to point out it's not always there for the non-football stuff and the baseball stuff when it's not successful. So yeah, I think he's the perfect dude for the role, and I'm really excited to see what additional stuff we can do in other quote unquote non-revenue sports.
Yep. Let's go on to our final headline, and that is 6 A&M football players were named to the all SEC teams. This came out like right as we were getting in here to record the podcast, so I don't have the graphic made. But first team, KC Concepcion is for first team wide receiver. Trey Zune, first team offensive line. All-purpose KC Concepcion, first teamer. Defense, Cassius Howell, defensive line first teamer, and then return specialist KC Concepcion. Third team, no second teamers. Third team wide receiver Mario Craver, offensive line Chase Basantis, linebacker Torian York. I think kind of the main headline of this is not only do you have 6, KC Concepcion has 3 different first team.
That's amazing, man.
First team awards with wide receiver.
What a marketing pitch that is for any wide receiver in the portal, or that's about to be.
Who has return abilities as well.
And that's why I've kind of said all season that he's my pick for the team MVP of just the difference maker.
Yeah.
What makes this team going from good to borderline great. I think it's KC Concepcion and the receivers. You had Mario Craver in that too. The receivers they brought in. Completely changed the offense.
And to that point, I think Craver could absolutely step into that role next year. I don't know quite about his punt return abilities just because I haven't seen them, but I assume that he would be very, very good at that as well. I think Terry Bussey would need to be able to go to that next gear.
Terry Bussey did have that kickoff return against Notre Dame that was called back.
That is true. And he's had several good punt returns too for when KC wasn't doing it. And so I think he absolutely could.
Isaiah Williams, another one in that line depth chart at punt return. To your point, I do think either KC or Mario Craver could be considered the offensive MVPs this year. Kind of one of the reasons that I think hurt Marcel Reed, maybe in that Heisman voting or whatever, is because I think those two guys were it's hard for me to put a guy up for Heisman when he's probably the 3rd best guy on the offense. I know that can be said about some of the wide receivers at Ohio State, some of the wide receivers at Indiana.
I was going to say, you could say 4th best if you're talking a healthy Le'Veon Moss.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So,
but Le'Veon didn't contribute for a good chunk of the
season. They had a lot of good weapons. That's not really necessarily even taking away anything from Marcel.
Right, exactly.
There's just a lot of good weapons, and I think those two guys helped make Marcel what he has been so far this season.
Absolutely. And to be fair, Marcel still had a chance, I think, to play his way into being in the Heisman conversation. It just didn't happen those last, against Texas. Had he had a really good game and beaten Texas, we might be talking about Marcel going to New York. I don't know.
Yeah, especially depending on what happened in Atlanta, right? Because those were the stakes going into it. Is assuming we beat Texas, you have a great game there, then you've got another chance to prove yourself against Georgia. But obviously,
over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William Joe Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
Let's take some time here to go over into the conversation because it is the talking point of sports right now.
It's a great picture.
What happened with this
Did you take that, Tyler? Did you take that picture?
One of us did.
For those listening.
I just remember that photo shoot.
It was a good time.
Cool
it's the national championship trophy.
It was a good time had by all.
Which was here the week of the South Carolina game. And so many of my buddies were like, "Why is that here? Why is it in College Station?"
We did not plan that. No. Was not our planning, our scheduling. So what did happen with the bracket? Because there is a lot of people. There's a lot of people calling for change. There's a lot of people saying there needs to be expansion. There's Notre Dame not going to a bowl game. Like, what offends y'all the most about this bracket this year?
Well, first off, I'll say I've heard a lot of conversation, different sides. Paul Feinbaum said we need to do away with the group of fives.
No.
Yes, I don't think so. I think they're fine as it is. This is more of a down year for group of fives. But when you have a dominant Boise State team, are you going to keep them out? Just because of their conference affiliation and
Cincinnati made it to the 4-team playoff as a group of five a few years ago and had a very good team.
Over and over again proven that there are group of 5 teams that emerge. This wasn't one of those years, but hey, play the games. If you're kind of hurt that you didn't make it, well, Notre Dame beat Miami, beat Texas A&M. You're in. Texas, don't lose to Florida. There are so many variables of people. There's always going to be controversy those kind of first few teams out, but there's a way to play your way into this thing. So I'm not as hurt with the bracket. I'm a little confused about some of the seedings, but I don't have as many problems as many do.
Max, what's your biggest gripe?
I was going to try to start with some of the things I think they got right in the
Okay,
spirit,
what did they get
in the
right?
spirit of the season. I think the standards that we have set for how you get into the playoff with 12 teams, especially with the automatic top 4 bid with the conference that being eliminated, I think this is about as good as you are going to get. And I also think that the 2 G5s being in there is credit to the G5 schools, and also knowing like the ACC is not always going to be like that. I think especially with Franklin being at Virginia Tech, you know, Clemson's not going to be down forever. You would assume Florida State's not going to be down forever. There's Miami sitting right there. I like
Georgia Tech.
Tech. I don't think that this is such a huge problem. And like, obviously, Oregon's probably going to beat the tar out of James Madison. Ole Miss and Tulane, that might be interesting. But punishing the G5 for that is so silly. And I like, case in point, James Madison making the playoff and getting, what was it, $4 or $5 million. And I saw a tweet from somebody who is up in northern Louisiana saying the money that is now doled out to the Sun Belt teams because of this playoff berth is more than most of their athletic department budgets.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And if you are a fan of college football, you are a fan of the sport, how could you possibly say, well, but we need Notre Dame and Texas or Notre Dame and Vanderbilt in there instead, and they're better teams. We want the best teams. It's not about that. It's about what you've done to get yourself to that point, and it met the criteria as set forth by the committee, which again, I'm being nice to them right now because I have my gripes. That's fine. I think the end result is what it should have been. And for a little while, I was sympathetic to Notre Dame, and then they came out and said, yeah, you know what, we're opting out of everything now. And now all of a sudden I am the biggest Notre Dame hater because what message are you sending to your fan base?
Did you see the tweet of
players?
When after they made the announcement, someone posted the clip from Rudy where they're all setting their jerseys down.
Right.
And it's just Notre Dame right now
it's
after
like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I was telling one of my usual group text friends, I was like, that doesn't seem very Marcus Freeman to me. Because to me, Marcus Freeman's the kind of guy who's like, put the ball down anywhere and we'll play. Notre Dame and BYU would have been such a fun matchup.
I'm mad we don't get that matchup.
Just from a culture standpoint, who the heck knows what would have happened on the field? And then you see people, Notre Dame fans on the internet saying, oh, we would beat BYU by 20 points.
Prove it.
Yeah, prove it. Now we're never going to know.
I'd love to see them beat them by 20.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. I am 100% on board with you. Let me clarify that. But the argument I saw for the other way is the fact that so much of the problem with why this happened to Notre Dame is the fact, and this is one of the gripes that I have, that most people have, is that there shouldn't be a ranking show every week that puts the committee boxes them into a corner, and from the penultimate to the final, to put them into this situation. That the reason why we have that is so that ESPN can make some more money. Who owns literally all the bowls, including the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which they are projected to go to play BYU? ESPN.
I am vigorously nodding my head at all of this.
Yeah. So if the argument was okay, the problem with why Notre Dame was put into this position to have not to be left out of the playoff, but to kind of have their hearts broken was because ESPN put the committee into a box that they really couldn't get out of. So why not stick it to ESPN?
Yeah.
That's the counter argument. I don't necessarily agree with it. I still think, why not? Okay. They're having trouble. At least last I looked, they're having trouble filling the second spot, or they did have trouble at the Birmingham Bowl to play Georgia Southern. All of these 5 win teams, Auburn, Baylor, and some of them just said, no, we're good. Maybe I get that because it's Birmingham. I don't think you're going to go there and each player is going to get an Xbox or something.
Sure.
But the Pop-Tarts Bowl has been elevated to one of the more noticeable.
And it's fun.
Yeah. And
It's
you're
fun,
gonna go
Travis.
get to hang out with your buddies in Florida, in
You get
Orlando,
another
right?
game.
Yeah.
You get to go do stuff. Usually they'll take them to Disneyland or something.
It's an experience. It's supposed to be fun.
It's a vacation. Why not go and get to celebrate your? Yeah, I know it didn't play out the way you wanted it to, but go celebrate your season. Take the bowl practices. That's probably the most valuable thing that they're getting rid of is the extra 15, 14 practices they get for going to a bowl game and get your team better for next year. Because I think one of the reasonings they gave is they're just looking ahead and wanting to build for next year. That's what bowl practices do. That's what this bowl game can do. Just throw out your second string. Let them get reps.
It's like, what was it, in 2021 after LSU got that upset win against us? It was Coach O's last game, and so many people portaled after Coach O left. And I think they had 35 scholarship players going into that Texas Bowl. I don't even remember if they won it or not. But, and if you're an LSU fan, well, if you're a diehard LSU fan, I'm sure you remember the game and the score and all that. But if you're at least a casual LSU fan, you're just stoked that they're there. And there's a soundbite going around. I forget the player, and I wish I remembered his name, who's like, put a ball down. Like, we're representing Louisiana. We're here at the Texas Bowl. We will play. As long as there's 11 of us, we will play. And gosh, man, if that is not what is so much needed right now, and as this Notre Dame entity that you are, you're supposed to embody this whole, like, tradition and also just this grit and hardworking, and then you say, nah, we're done. Like, forget that, dude. F that so much. I have no sympathy for you in any of your future endeavors. I'm really glad we're not even playing them anymore. Like, they think that they put some stick in the spoke of the wheels of this college football bicycle, when in reality, there wasn't even an acorn to run over.
Here's the problem with all of college football right now when it comes to the way that the committee is formulating the bracket, from Lane Kiffin leaving the way that he did, from the transfer portal and the SCORE Act, and every single thing that's wrong with college football right now goes back to the fact that the main goal of college football is not to win a national championship, it's to make the most money. That was completely evident in what Lane Kiffin did in moving to LSU. That's evident in the fact that this is not the best way to decide a national champion, but they're doing it this way so that everyone involved can make more money. It goes back to the fact that we have these super conferences now that make absolutely no sense, with the Atlantic Coast Conference being in San Francisco too, the Big Ten, the traditional Northeastern one, being in LA, the Southeastern Conference having 16 teams. A&M goes 11-1 and is fourth in the playoff, and the ACC puts up 5-7 Duke because of a weird computer formula that have a tiebreaker because the conferences are too big. They did away with divisions, and now there's no good way to settle who goes to the conference title game because you don't play everybody on the field. Like, if there could be someone, and I know this is just a beat, the horse has been beat on this thing, but like, someone needs to get the reins of control of the people who are in power of this thing, mostly the SEC and the Big Ten. I mean, even going back to the fact that, you know, they talk about getting rid of maybe the Group 5 automatic qualifiers. Well, that can easily be done because it only needs the vote of the Big Ten and the SEC to push through anything. No one else has a say. I mean, they have a say, but it doesn't matter because whatever they say goes, which means that probably pretty soon you'll see the elimination of the G5 qualifier, which is terrible because college football is about letting 130 teams have a chance to win a national title. Notre Dame is going to be back in the run for a playoff within the next year, 2 years, 3 years. North Texas might never have had that opportunity to be near that situation. Who knows if James Madison will ever be back into this situation again and have a magical kind of season. Even if they get blown out, that fan base will remember this season forever.
And if you're a college football fan, that's why it's awesome to tune in to East Carolina versus Memphis on a Thursday night, because it has implications.
Yes.
Well,
why would you not want that?
What's one of the best college sporting events ever across all
NCAA
sports? Is
men's
the NCAA
basketball
tournament. And why is that? We see the Cinderella runs. We see the stories. There's 68 teams competing for a national title. I think you need to keep the spirit of that, of college sports. But to your point, that's kind of lost right now in college football. It's not a collegiate sport. It doesn't feel like it right now. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon either. I mean, the Notre Dame thing was bound to happen. We've already seen before the Notre Dame thing, key players already opting out of bowl games. You know, for the last several years that happens. Bowl games have lost their luster. It's not what they used to be because of this 12-team playoff. So now you already have that kind of mentality of, you know, playoff or bust, and so everything else kind of doesn't matter. And if you make it a Big Ten SEC exclusive kind of club, I mean, what does that do to the
if you're the Big Ten or the SEC or even the ACC, even though some of the stuff was kind of done to them, or the Big 12, you shouldn't complain about any of this because you did it to yourself. Everyone realized that the pandemic, and even a little bit before that, when the first SEC realignment started happening, that hey, there's nobody in charge. There's a void of power right here. Let's go grab it and set ourselves up for the best. Let's stack the deck in our favor so that that when we go out and actually compete, we have a leg up, and not just go out there and compete and see who's better and then move on from there. Everybody is trying to stack the deck, and the game is who can stack the deck more, not necessarily like who can win the games.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what, and kind of Max, to your point, what's cool about college football too is the regular season matters.
Yeah.
You know, all these games matter. No, that Miami game ended up being a playoff game for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Had Notre Dame beat Miami, they would be in here and not the Hurricanes. It's just, those kind of games matter. They're playing, as much as I hated seeing my alma mater BYU get left out. Their playoff game was against Texas Tech. Had they beaten them, they would have been. It's all these games matter, and we're moving further and further away from it if we're only going to focus on the Big Ten and SEC, because then you're going to eventually have 3 lost teams that they have such a crazy strength of schedule that they deserve to be in.
Which I'm about to defend a 3-loss team here in a second. Actually 2 that do not need me coming to their defense at all. Both of y'all just absolutely cooked. I will also say, we were talking at the beginning of the year, especially Notre Dame week, and maybe this was just me pre-coping, but I was saying, this game can do a lot more for us if we win than if we lose it, because conference scheduling and stuff like that. Well, it ended up that Notre Dame win is the reason we are still in the playoffs, I think, because if we were sitting here at 10-2, we'd be right there with BYU. And you know what? If we were 10-2, if we were 10-1, or golly, guys, if we were 10-1 going into the Texas game, and Texas ended up being 9-3, and we were 10-2. Texas probably would have jumped us. Probably. And so all of a sudden that Notre Dame game makes so much more, it's so much more valuable to have it in our schedule. And that's exactly why you argue for having a decent enough Power 4 non-conference schedule. That is why we are in the playoff. That is why we are able to host.
But it goes both ways, because that's true if you win it. But if you lose it, Notre Dame scheduled 2 Power 5 preseason. I mean, they don't have a conference, but early season tests in Miami and A&M, and those were the 2 reasons why they got left out.
Yeah, but again, I'm not coming to Notre Dame's defense on this. I'm just not. So I don't even know how much time we have left in this recording, how long we've been rambling on. I am going to come to the defense of 2 of these 3-loss teams here, and one of them is Alabama. Nobody needs me to take up for Alabama here, but a lot of people on this interwebs conversation were like, there's only one 3-loss team in the playoff. There's only this, there's only that, and it's Alabama, and it doesn't make sense, and this and that and the other. And to me, I think that could not be more wrong. And I think this is an argument also in BYU's case of you cannot punish the conference champion for making it to, or I'm sorry, you cannot punish somebody for getting a conference championship berth. You just can't do that, because if you do that, then all of a sudden that conference championship makes 0 sense. Now, consequences for losing, yes, you can argue there should still be some, and Alabama got absolutely throttled by Georgia. That's not what I'm saying. My point is, Alabama was the 2nd overall in the conference leading up to that game, and therefore they needed that conference championship berth. And I forget which talking head said it. Might have been Pate or Wasserman or somebody. Now Alabama's punishment for that is they got wrecked by Georgia, and now they have to immediately turn around and go to Norman. So if they're frauds, they're going to be out in the first round, and that's fine. I don't think they took anybody's spot, because the bottom line is they were in Atlanta, and they beat the team that they went to against in Atlanta. So their wins ultimately outweighed, even though it was a kind of sluggish finish to the season for them. Alabama should still be in the playoff.
And sorry, Tyler, the difference between Alabama and BYU, and this is the problem with the rankings, to go back to all that, is that BYU was out of the bracket in the penultimate rankings, and they stayed out of the bracket.
Yeah.
Alabama was in the bracket,
right,
and so they kept them in the bracket,
right,
which then you go back to why are we doing? We should have one look in like they do in college basketball with 16 teams and a final, and get rid of all of this week to week madness.
Yeah, I think the only argument there is why were they ranked there to begin with? But yeah, the reasoning of the ending makes sense. You get the outrage because the committee has set themselves up for it, like we've talked about. It's kind of ridiculous.
The only other, and I am not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because the Texas fans have just been all up on my Facebook for some reason because I posted a couple of things about A&M as the chief meteorologist, the only chief meteorologist based in Bryan College Station.
As the arrhythmia of the spirit of Aggie
Don't you know I'm on a podcast? But one thing that I will give Sark credit for is he would have done exactly like Elko would have done. If the records were switched, Elko would be saying the exact same thing that Sark was saying all the way leading up to that final ranking. Well, when it flipped and they found out, okay, we're 13 or 14, whatever their ranking is, immediately Sark said, we're excited to go to the Cheez-It Bowl. We're excited for the seniors, the guys on this team who this is going to be their last game. This is another opportunity to get better and build towards what is next. I don't understand how you cannot have that mentality otherwise. Now, again, it's a little bit different situation from what we saw with Notre Dame. Like, I understand that. But Sark's 180 there is exactly what I would want from a coach. You campaign for your team. Even if the odds are stacked against you, all the way up until that point, you say, yes, we deserve to be a playoff team. And then when you're not, you don't throw a hissy fit. You say, okay, put the ball down and we'll play.
Well, and I think Texas knew kind of their fate before.
Sure.
I think Sark knew they weren't getting in, but he's going to do what any coach does in campaigns for. And the arguments he made were kind of legit because, you dock him for the Florida loss. Well, the Ohio State loss, it's like, well, are they getting punished for a close loss at the number one team in the nation? Because if they're a 2-loss team, they're for sure in. Because then you look at Alabama. Well, they had just as bad of a loss to Florida State,
right? And I think the reason that is the case, though, is because of where they were sitting preseason. If they are preseason number one and they didn't have Ohio State on that schedule, say they had Purdue instead, and they were 10-2 going into this with the loss to Florida. Who else did they lose to?
To Georgia.
Georgia, yeah. You have a loss to Georgia and that WTF loss to Florida. If not for that preseason number one ranking, I think what you're looking at there is, okay, there's Vanderbilt and there's Texas, both at 10-2, and maybe you would give the edge to Texas because of the head-to-head. But I still think at 10-2, the way this season played out, I think Texas could have been left out at 10-2. Without that Ohio State loss and instead just a random other P4 team win. I do think that is a possibility because, case in point, if A&M would have gone 10-2, I think there's a real strong possibility we would have been left out of the playoff also. I don't think that's going to be the case every year, especially with the 9-conference game model coming back. I think that we are going to be looking at so many 3-loss teams next year, and they are all going to be making a case for the playoff, and I think even more 3-loss teams are going to make it into the playoff next year.
Here's the most important thing moving forward. Don't just let's get some data. Don't change anything. Let's see how this plays out multiple years in a row before we go in. That was the problem with the BCS, is that as soon as somebody was left out and somebody was enraged, we had to go back in and tweak the algorithm, tweak the formula. Just let's let it sit for a second and see, because I bet more times out of not, it's going to wind up like last year, where there really wasn't necessarily even 12 good teams to put into the bracket, or there isn't some crazy scenario where 2 G5 teams get in. You almost, if you let it sit and marinate and see that year after year, a ton of Big Ten and SEC teams are going to get in every year and it's going to be fine, then you can celebrate the years when 2 G5 teams get in. You're like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool.
Like,
this can be
cool
one to remember. This could be the Boise State Oklahoma game that literally everyone remembers as like one of the greatest college football games
Tulane
ever.
And Ole Miss. Watch that game. I know Summerall's not there anymore, but when you first said don't,
well, he is there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. When you first said don't, I thought you were just going to say don't lose to Florida.
Don't lose to Florida.
Also, don't do that
either.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's just take a deep breath and see how this goes. Maybe you might lose an odd mill here or there if your team doesn't make it one year or not. But if you're the SEC, the Notre Dames, whatever of the world, like you're probably going to make it back here in a year or two. Just chill out, because I think that's the best thing for college football is let everybody just kind of figure it out, get used to it, like it, have some confidence that okay, if my team, if I follow a blue chip and my team, a blue blood, and my team doesn't make it this year, they'll probably make it again in 2 years. There's probably not going to be some huge drop off with these teams that have good rev share, good facilities, all of that. Like they'll be back. It'll be fine. Take a deep breath.
Or you're going to fire them, buy out tens of millions of dollars, and find
bring in the next two. And you're going to go in the transfer portal and pull in the best prospects. Like it's going to be fine. And we don't need college football changing the rules every year to where people don't even know how the playoff process works anymore because it changes. It reminds me of the fact when like instant replay, or I follow a lot of English soccer with VAR. When you're in a league that has VAR, every goal that goes in against you, go, well, maybe they'll check it. Well, maybe they'll check it. It'll change, even though you saw with your eyes what happened. Maybe they'll check it. And I kind of feel like it's that. Oh, my team didn't get in. Well, maybe they'll change it. Maybe they'll change it to where my team can get in next year. It's like maybe your team will just get in next year with the rules how they stand.
Yeah.
Just chill.
You know
just
what
take
would
a
be
deep
fun?
breath.
You know what would be really fun? This is never going to happen. But what if, say Mississippi State's sitting at 5-7, and I could be way off, but I believe Southern Miss had a pretty decent year this year. What if there was a relegation of thing?
I would love
where
that.
Southern Miss then takes Mississippi State's place in the SEC. That would be so much chaos and so much. It's never going to happen.
Big 12 team. Like I think that would be amazing.
Like what if Oklahoma State got bumped down and you throw Tulsa in the Big 12?
It would be amazing. Well, there's so many financial.
I know.
Ramifications, but it would be really fun.
And you know what though? I'm looking forward to this Saturday when South Carolina State plays Prairie View A&M.
You know why?
Because it's football, and I'm excited to watch it, and I'm going to make my whole family watch it too.
Let's quickly go around the SEC. This is kind of more of a national story, but it happened in the SEC territory. That is, according to IGN, the video game reporting network. GameStop accepted over 80,000 items during this week's Trade Anything Day event, which means they're kind of bolstering their trading in games as a big business model, and that you can trade these in. So they said you can bring anything, and we'll give you some amount of store credit for it. Some of the things that were brought in, 2 taxidermied animals, one a bobcat, one a goose. This one is great. I couldn't pull it. I'll show you all later. A portrait of a dog that's dressed up like Snoop Dogg.
Nice.
Okay.
Complete with like ponytails and everything. We got a quote tiny Jesus, a speed limit sign, some Air Jordans, tapes of Friends on VHS.
Nice.
And this is a good one. There's a picture right here. It's the disc that you would put in your Wii from Netflix to be able to stream stuff.
We
on
had
a Wii.
one of those.
Oh.
Yeah. Which you needed like a disc to play to be able to string the movies.
That was our first console streaming experience because of that Wii
Here's
disc.
the goose.
Okay.
Nice.
We can maybe...
let's
see here.
We don't need it.
We can make Max the goose.
Yeah, there. Okay, great. That is better
There's
now
the
that I think about
taxidermy
it.
goose.
That does look good.
Here's the Snoop Dogg dog.
What a great marketing ploy. Mm-hmm. Hats off to the marketing people at GameStop for keeping that company alive over the past couple of years.
Wild that they
with the think of
still exist.
With the help of
Reddit
bro traders,
right? Yeah.
Their speed limit sign. Here's the Bobcat.
Speed limit sign. They may have to take back. They may have to turn to the proper authorities.
Yeah, you're right. Here's the Netflix
I don't know
DVD.
if I can give you credit for that. I don't know that you should be selling me this.
The question is, what would you, if you had known about this, what would be the thing that you would trade in that you would think would give you the most value with also the most weirdness?
I don't know. I have a couple of old Mad Cats controllers that they'd probably be like, yeah, I'll give you 50 cents for this. I might have my old PlayStation Eye toy, which a lot of people probably don't even remember. That was like, and Xbox had the Kinect thing, which all of that was just completely done away with. I have a couple of those things that I'd maybe try to bring in, but that's not cool enough. I don't know.
I have a pretty intense jersey collection.
Okay.
I could maybe trade in. I have like an old 1980s Dallas Mavericks warm-up jacket that has like the collar and like the metal snap buttons.
I've got a signed Dirk jersey, but I don't know if I'd want to give that up.
Well, you want to give that up,
so
yeah.
I wouldn't want to give it up. I've got other jerseys that aren't signed. Random sports hat. I'm not really a big hat wearer, but I have a bunch of them. So I'd probably trade in some hats.
I have so one of my weird fandoms growing up and even into my adult years was the Dallas Sidekicks indoor soccer team. I have an absurd amount of Dallas Sidekicks jerseys.
I might have an old Toon Squad jersey.
Oh, okay. Good one. I'd probably, if we're going games, I mean, I've got all my Super Nintendo games and the Super Nintendo console.
Yeah, but you need to hold on to those.
Yeah. Well, some of them I do.
Yeah.
But like the Wii and stuff, I've got a bunch of Wii stuff that I don't use. Because then we graduated to the Wii U, and now it's the Switch.
Oh, gosh. The first thing that I would take is all of my OG Xbox and Xbox 360 NCAA and FIFAs and Maddens and stuff like that.
So
that
before
are now
the new game came out, I went and traded in my NCAA football or 2014. Was that the last one?
Yeah.
That thing was worth like $100.
Yeah.
Now it's probably not as much because the new games are out and everything like that. But when there was
for a while, it was hard to get.
Yeah.
And GameStop knew it, and it would still be anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe some rando jerseys might be a good contribution. That I have no taxidermied animals.
I don't either.
I have no weird artwork. So yeah, that's probably.
I could make some weird art.
We can take this painting that's been sitting here for the past 2 years.
There is, and it's kind of depressing.
Yeah,
I don't know much about it, but
it's like an autumn scene.
Where did
by
that
a dog.
come from, by the way?
Is a story that I'll tell you later.
All right.
okay,
Maybe we'll save it for next week.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe we should auction off the painting on the podcast because
sounds good.
that needs to
It wasn't
leave.
always here because this used to be the sports office.
That's correct.
And it was
not always. No, it was not a part of this.
It
was not a part of the OG sports office.
No. Well, that is more than enough time that we have this week, and we, since we solved all of college football's problems, there's really nothing else to talk about. So be sure to check back in next week. We'll have the full kind of game preview as Texas A&M takes on Miami. I know we didn't talk a whole lot about that this week. We'll do that next week, and all kinds of previews and everything. We'll get to talk to a lot of players and coaches and everything leading into that big game in Kyle Field, the first round of the college football playoffs and the first ones that A&M are involved in. So for Max Crawford and Tyler Shaw, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. We'll see you next week.